Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to be here with you. Today, we're going to explore a fascinating topic, the hardest person in the world to break up with. We'll look at why some breakups are tougher than others and what makes certain relationships so difficult to end. Over the next few slides, I'll share insights and stories that shed light on this challenging experience. Let's get started. When you first encounter these kinds of relationships, they often seem perfect, almost intoxicating. They're charming, attractive, and have a magnetic emotional pull that draws you in. You might feel a mix of admiration and sympathy, perhaps because of some difficult past they've shared. It's natural to want to love them, to help heal their wounds, and to imagine a future together that feels everlasting. But here's the crucial part. Beneath this hopeful beginning, there's a darker side. These partners can become seriously damaging to your mental, emotional, and even physical health. And what makes it even harder is that leaving them can feel almost impossible. Recognizing this pattern is key to understanding the deceptive allure they hold and why it's so important to be cautious as you navigate these relationships. Why they are so difficult to leave. The hardest person to break up with often embodies a painful contradiction. On one hand, they say they love you. Their words are usually filled with affection and promises that can really pull at your heartstrings. This creates a very powerful emotional bond that makes it even harder to walk away. On the other hand, you love them deeply. Your heart is invested, and the thought of separation can be incredibly painful. And then there's their behavior, which can erode your well-being over time. Even if their love seems genuine, their actions, whether subtle or overt, can cause harm. And it's important to recognize that this erosion doesn't always look like obvious abuse. Sometimes, it's these small, corrosive behaviors that wear you down gradually, making it harder to leave. Understanding this contradiction helps explain why ending these relationships can be so complex and emotionally challenging. Let's talk about what I call subtle erosion, or the hidden damage that can quietly chip away at a relationship over time. It often starts with something like chronic absence or emotional withdrawal. You might see your partner present physically, but emotionally, they seem distant, creating an unsettling void. It's as if they're there, but not really there, which can be incredibly painful and confusing. Another form of this erosion is infidelity or compulsive dishonesty. These acts undermine the very foundation of trust and stability in a relationship because deceit chips away at the sense of security you once had. When trust is broken repeatedly, it's not just about the lies, it's about the damage to your sense of safety and connection. Addictions are also a major factor, whether substances or certain behaviors, that consume your partner's attention and energy, often putting those needs above the relationship itself. This can leave you feeling neglected or less important. Reckless financial behavior is another form of erosion, risking your shared security and future stability. It adds a layer of stress and uncertainty, making it harder to feel secure and confident about what's ahead. Refusal of intimacy is yet another sign, an inability to provide warmth, affection, or emotional connection. It's not just about physical intimacy, but about feeling emotionally cared for and understood. All these issues can lead you to feel neglected, unseen, or even question your own sanity for noticing the damage. At first, you might voice concerns lightly, then more bitterly, but often you hold back from confronting your partner directly because you still love them. And here's the hard part. Sometimes it takes years or even decades before you find the courage to speak up. When you finally do, it's rarely met with understanding. Usually, one of two painful responses follows, either defensiveness or withdrawal, leaving you feeling more isolated and hurt. So here we see response one, often called the false confession. It sounds like this. You're right, I didn't see how much I hurt you. I'll change. I'll get therapy. Please just give me time. At first glance, this kind of reaction can be quite disarming. It gives you hope, right? Because you want to believe they're genuinely sorry and that they're willing to change. You might even see a flicker of that change happening, just enough to convince yourself to stay. But here's the harsh reality. More often than not, Real transformation doesn't happen with just words or promises. Instead, these promises act like emotional handcuffs, making it even harder to leave because you're holding onto hope that they will change. And the truth is, as time goes on, you might realize that nothing has truly changed. Worse, new entanglements, like shared children, a joint home, shared finances, can make leaving feel impossible. This is why it's so important to recognize these false promises for what they are, because they can keep you trapped in a relationship that continues to drain you emotionally. In this slide, we're looking at response 2, the denial and gaslighting. When someone dismisses your feelings with phrases like "you're imagining it," or "you're too sensitive, too insecure," they're trying to make you doubt your own perception. It's a way of shifting responsibility, often saying, "The problem isn't me, it's you." This strategy can be incredibly effective at destabilizing your sense of reality. As this continues, you might start questioning yourself, wondering, am I overreacting? Am I jealous? Am I ungrateful? Over time, this kind of gaslighting wears down your self-confidence. You may begin to believe that something is wrong with you, rather than with the person engaging in this behavior. Because we love these people and want to keep the relationship going, we often silence our instincts. We ignore our emotional needs, hoping things will improve, but instead, we get caught in a cycle of confusion and self-doubt. The real cost here is huge. It can lead to a gradual breakdown of your mental health and make it difficult for you to trust your own judgment anymore. Recognizing this pattern is crucial because it's a subtle but destructive form of emotional abuse that needs to be addressed. So, why do so many intelligent, kind, and open-minded people end up staying in these difficult relationships for so long? Well, one of the biggest reasons is hope. We want to believe that our partner can change, that things will get better, and that the promises of change will come true. That hope keeps us holding on, even when the situation feels unhealthy. Another major factor is the fear of loss. The idea of leaving someone who genuinely loves us can seem cruel or irrational, especially when there's emotional attachment involved. It's a complex mix of love and fear that makes it hard to break free. Then there's self-doubt. Gaslighting and emotional manipulation can make you question your perceptions and feelings. Over time, you might start to doubt what you know is true, which keeps you stuck in the relationship. Of course, commitments also play a huge role. When you have children, financial ties, or years invested, these become psychological chains. They make the idea of leaving feel overwhelming and almost impossible. And finally, personal history matters a lot. Many people who tolerate such dynamics grew up in environments where emotional neglect or chaos was normal. That sense of what's familiar can make it harder to recognize that a different, healthier way of living is possible. All of these factors connect to the overall theme that staying isn't just about love. It's about a complex web of hopes, fears, doubts, and past experiences that keep us in place. Eventually, there comes a point where you realize that for your long-term well-being, leaving is not just an option but a necessity. But I know that decision to leave can feel like walking off a cliff, terrifying and uncertain. It's normal to wrestle with two intense self-accusations. First, you might think, I'm cruel for leaving someone who promises to change. Or, on the other hand, you might feel, I'm crazy for leaving someone who insists nothing is wrong. These feelings are incredibly common, but they can also keep you stuck. The key here is to accept a difficult truth. Sometimes, you love someone who either cannot change or will not change. And that love, as genuine as it feels, can be exploited to maintain the status quo that's harming you. Recognizing this is crucial because it shifts the focus from guilt or confusion to understanding what's really happening. Moving forward means acknowledging this reality, accepting that your love doesn't mean you have to stay in a situation that's detrimental. It's about having the courage to prioritize your well-being, even when it's hard. Breaking free from challenges or habits is rarely something you can do entirely on your own. Just like climbers need partners to reach the summit of the toughest peaks, you also need allies, whether it's therapists, trusted friends, or mentors, people who can support you along the way. These allies serve several vital roles. First, they help reassure your sanity. When self-doubt starts to take over and makes everything feel overwhelming, they provide clarity and perspective, helping you see the bigger picture. Second, they remind you of your worth. During times when guilt and shame threaten to hold you back, these supportive people uplift you and reinforce your value. And third, they anchor you through moments of doubt, those times when you might think you're making a terrible decision. In reality, often, you're making the best choice possible, and having someone to remind you of that can be a real game changer. Overall, support is crucial because it helps you stay grounded, confident, and resilient as you navigate your journey. So, here we are at the final reflection, and I want to talk about the act of self-love. Often, the hardest person to part ways with isn't someone we don't love, but someone we love deeply even when they cause us pain. That emotional attachment can make leaving incredibly difficult because our hearts remain connected, even as our well-being suffers. What's important to understand is that true love for ourselves sometimes means walking away from what's hurting us. It's not about stopping caring for them. It's about finally caring enough to prioritize our own health and happiness. Leaving that person might feel like madness or even betrayal, but in reality, it's an act of liberation. It's the start of reclaiming your sanity, your dignity, and your future. This final point ties everything together because it reminds us that self-love isn't just about feeling good. It's about making the tough choices that allow us to thrive. And sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is walk away to protect and nurture ourselves.